Trail talk time. Out on another beauty of a trail. Just breathing in that fresh chi. Loving this beautiful sunny evening. And today I wanted to talk about, the difference between short-term pleasure and long-term fulfillment or gain. Especially in this fast-paced society, everything's just going 100 miles a minute. We're kind of trained to take that short-term pleasure over the long-term gain. But as Ice Cube says, life ain't a track meet, it's a marathon. This ain't checkers, this is chess. And I've seen that, people who have a lot of power in this world, they're chess players. They're thinking so many steps ahead. They're planning so many steps ahead. They're seeing into the future. And that's what we need to start to do when we're thinking about, what we're doing now. Well, how is it going to affect us in the future? And if we're always just thinking about, gaining pleasure in the moment, there's certainly nothing wrong with that. Everybody seeks pleasure. That's the pleasure principle, right? We're seeking to get pleasure and to avoid pain. But it's funny when we, look at the opposite of that and start to see, well, there's also another term, no pain, no gain, right? And you can look at that in many ways because, some people can actually struggle a bit too much if they use that as their only philosophy. But it's like when you're working out, right? There might be some pain as you're working out. You're literally tearing your muscles. But putting yourself through that pain, you're going to get so much gain out of it, right? Whereas if you just avoid that pain and you don't do the workout, then you're not going to see any of those gains. Your muscles won't be able to grow. And so that's a beautiful metaphor that we can use for our lives. And think about, whatever I'm doing right now in the moment, is this just because I'm seeking pleasure? In this moment, is this only going to help me right now? Or is this really going to help me in the long run? Is this going to benefit me in the future? And this is a beautiful question we can ask ourselves, right? Like, how is this really serving me in my life, in the grand scheme of my life? I think that's a beautiful, thing to look at. Let's take drugs, for instance, right? So many people use drugs or alcohol just because they want that instant pleasure or gratification in the moment. But so many times it starts to bring your life into a spiral and we become addicted to that pleasure that we get, that momentary high. And, I think it can become super unhealthy if we just live like that, always chasing something. And, we can use our time to build, everything in our lives gradually and start to see better results instead of always just running around in a circle, chasing that same high over and over again. And so, it might cause you some more pain in the moment, or you might think of it as depriving yourself of pleasure in the moment sometimes, but it's going to be worth it when you feel that beautiful long-term fulfillment, right? In the long run, it's going to help you so much more. And it can be tough. It takes willpower sometimes, right? Let's look at food, for instance. Maybe we want to just binge eat something all of a sudden. We get this craving for something. And a lot of times it's unhealthy food that we're craving in those moments. And if we just, go ahead and go overboard and eat a whole bunch of unhealthy food, then yeah, it might bring us some pleasure in the moment. It might feel good for a little while, but that's going to wear off pretty quickly. And, we've all felt the results of that in the long term. How unhealthy it is, how heavy we might feel after, or even sick. And you can use so many different examples of this to see how just chasing the short-term, pleasure instead of the long-term gratitude or gratification or that fulfillment, it might not always be the best for us. We get all these cravings and things from certain habits that we have in our life, and it certainly does take willpower to break habits that have built up over so long. But this can keep us stagnant, right? I think we all are seeking progression in our lives. That's what really helps us to feel fulfilled. We feel like we're moving in a good direction in our life. We're moving up, we're moving forward, and we're growing. We have that growth. But if we continue to seek only the short-term pleasure, then that's what keeps us stuck and not growing. We're always just seeking that little tiny bit of pleasure in the moment, and then it wears off, and then we have no real growth from that. And every spiritual path, every religious text and everything will talk about our sexual energies, right? And looking at, how we can just frivolously waste them. And this can take so much of our energy, right? If we're just constantly seeking that sexual pleasure, just to have sex or masturbate or whatever it is, again, it will feel great in the moment. It'll give you that burst of momentary pleasure. But how is it really, affecting you in the long run? Is it really going to bring you joy and fulfillment in the long run? So that's a beautiful question that I just was thinking about, and I wanted to bring forth. I think it's important to observe ourselves and be mindful of our actions in each moment, and start to realize, the consequences of our actions, the effects that everything we think and say and do have on our lives. And that's one thing that we can all start to think about is, whatever I'm doing now, is this really helping me in the long run, or am I just seeking short-term pleasure from this? And once in a while, it's all right to seek some short-term pleasures, of course. Everything's all about balance and moderation, so I'm definitely going to do another video about the middle way and moderation in the next coming weeks. But yeah, that's all I wanted to share for today. I hope it was helpful. Hope everyone has an amazing day, and just stay mindful, right? Stay mindful of your actions and what you're doing each day, and start to see these things all have consequences now and in the future. And I hope we all can make some wiser decisions in our life and live in a healthier way. So that's it for today. Have an amazing day. Peace and limitless love.